Hey everybody, welcome to So Many Sequels, your book club for movies. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
Today on the show, we're stepping up to the plate with A League of Their Own for the first episode of Sports September. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Those things really help us grow and reach new listeners. We're shooting for 316 subscribers on YouTube right now, and with your help, we can get there. So go do that. Help us out. All right, let's get started on A League of Their Own. Letterboxd says about this movie, as America's stock of athletic young men is depleted during World War II, a professional all-female baseball league springs up in the Midwest, funded by publicity-hungry candy maker Walter Harvey. Competitive sisters Dottie Hinson and Kit Keller spar with each other, scout Ernie Capandino and grumpy has-been coach Jimmy Dugan on their way to fame. This is Garrett's pick. You'll explain to us why you picked this here in a second. First, David, give us the box office rundown of how this movie performed when it came out back in 1992.
Yeah, sure thing. This movie opened specifically on July 1st, but opened the weekend of July 3rd, 1992, and opened in the number 2 spot with $13.7 million, just behind Batman Returns, which was still in its third week, which had $13.8 million. At number 3, Eddie Murphy's Boomerang was in the third spot with 13.6, so actually a really competitive top 3, all those movies making 13.5 or better. At number 4, you had Sister Act, and at number 5, a kind of forgotten movie called Unlawful Entry, starring Ray Liotta, Kurt Russell. And so that's your top 5 for the weekend. The movie did really pretty well. In its second weekend, it fell 15%, but jumped into the number 1 spot, and then stayed pretty relevant for most of the year. It had an excellent run, finishing at $107 million in the United States, $24 million overseas, for a worldwide total of $132.4 million. That $13 million number for its opening weekend, adjusted for inflation, that's a $30 million opening. And the U.S. run of 107, that would be 241 today. So pretty good numbers adjusted for inflation against today's movies. It had a budget of about $40 million. The movie went on to make about 3.3 times that amount. For inflation, that'd be about a $90 million movie today. A League of Their Own was the number 10 movie of 1992. Number 1 movie in 92 was Disney's Aladdin, one of the only times a Disney animated movie was the number 1 movie of the year. Home Alone 2 was at number 2, Batman Returns at number 3, Lethal Weapon 3 at number 4, and A Few Good Men at number 5. So, I mean, honestly, 92, we don't talk about it too often, but a pretty good year for movies. We have been there a few times. The aforementioned Home Alone 2 we've reviewed, as well as Batman Returns. We also very recently reviewed Encino Man, which came out in 92, as well as Muppets Christmas Carol. These are all movies that we've done before. You can check those out. A League of Their Own, here's a little bonus stat for you, and then I'll leave it at this. A League of Their Own is the first movie directed by a woman to gross more than $100 million at the box office. It was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry in 2012. I believe the first year of eligibility. I think movies have to be at least 30 years old to go into the National Film Registry or something like that. I could have that number wrong, so I think so. But anyway, it went in 2012, and I'll leave it at that.
Cool. Wow. Well, Garrett, tell us, why are we kicking off Sports September with A League of Their Own?
A League of Their Own is one of the sports movies that I watched so often as a kid. I grew up with an older sister who played softball. I came prepped with pictures here for the YouTube audience. So that's my sister and my dad right there playing softball after they won some kind of tournament. They got a trophy there. And then I played baseball. There's little Garrett playing baseball right there in his little stance.
Yep, a league of his own.
And you could basically say that growing up, I was the Stillwell Angel.
No.
Because my sister's about 5 years older than me. I was surrounded by women playing softball. And, this movie was what we would put in. We had a van with a VCR back in the 90s. And so we would pop A League in Their Own and head off down to one of our regional tournaments, And in fact, again, for the YouTube audience, I have this picture right here, which is of a person. Her name is Dottie Key. She played for the Rockford Peaches for the entire duration of the Women's Professional Baseball League, or the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. So this movie and I have a really strong connection, but this is the first time that I'd seen it as an adult, so I was excited to pick it for Sports September.
Well, that's really cool, Garrett.
Yeah.
It makes sense that you would be like Stillwell.
Yeah.
It does, and with that context, yeah. David, let's go to you then with opening our first thoughts. What'd you think about it?
Did they ever make you wear the little sailor outfit that they made Stillwell wear?
They did not. No, I was never in a sailor outfit, at least to my recollection.
It's one of the films that I think earns that timeless moniker. Like, it will be a great movie 20 years from now, just as much as it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It's funny. It hits a lot of familiar sports tropes. You know, you have the kind of stereotypical characters you expect to see in a sports movie. But at the same time, there's an added layer of drama. There's some really interesting social commentary, which sometimes you think, oh, we're past that. But in some ways, we aren't. And I really think that most of the performances are really good. I do still laugh that when you go back and you read old reviews of this movie, that Madonna was such a controversial element of this movie in 1992. But anyway, I really enjoy this movie. I'm so glad you picked it, Garrett. And I think this is worth a rewatch anytime.
Wow.
How about you, Josh?
Good opening notes. Yeah, the movie works for a ton of reasons. I agree with you, David, on it being timeless, and I think it's because it's got this timeless setting. The movie was filmed in the early 1990s, but most of it is set in the 1940s, and that just makes it feel always fresh to me. I never feel like I'm watching an old movie about an older time period. I feel like I'm just watching a movie about an old time period. It doesn't feel like an old movie, if that is making sense, because I feel like they captured that time period so well that it just works at any point in time, like you said. I don't have a lot of history with the movie myself, and I'm not much of a baseball fan at all. I actually had the opposite experience growing up of you, Garrett, where I am 5 years older than my sister who played softball. So I was the older sibling who got dragged along on softball trips. And sorry to my sister if you're watching or listening, it's no secret to you. I would rather have done anything else. Anything at all would be better than having to drive around for hours with a bunch of little girls. As a 10-year-old, not 10-year-old, I'd be probably closer to 12, 13, 14 at those age when my sister was old enough to start playing. And when I was not old enough to not go with them yet. So I
could see how that change in age would make a big difference.
It makes the difference, I think, because you're not around like older cool kids. I wasn't the older cool kid either. I was just the older brother who was there.
Yeah.
So anyway, that did not help me like softball, baseball anymore in my life. So that said, I may not know too much about the game, but I can appreciate a really good team story when I see it. There's so much great bonding that happens on screen that I enjoy seeing. There's a lot of great underdog moments going on that are just universally relatable for a lot of people. So it's fun. It's very good. I hadn't seen it as an adult either.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I saw this movie as a kid, but for me, this was the first time that I'd sat down to watch it as an adult. And I gotta say, it exceeded my expectation. This is not necessarily a kid movie. As a kid, you would find certain things funny, but I was really into the action of the game. The way that they shot the action of those scenes and such connection to baseball and softball, that's what really hooked me. And all of the other stuff I didn't connect with. So sitting down this time and really seeing all of these dynamics of all of these different characters it was something else for me. It hit a lot of moments, but also filled me with a lot of joy to rewatch it as an adult because of all of those memories I had as a kid. And I feel like they did such a good job of showing these women. And all of these women are women that I feel like I've seen in my real life. And so I can look at this person and I can look at Rosie O'Donnell's character and be like, oh my God, that was somebody that I grew up with. Or Kit and Dottie, those are people that I can connect with on a personal level. And so this movie really, honestly, it got to me, especially at the end, because they do such a good job of building the characters, building the tension of the teams, and then everything comes together in that moment at the end of the climax of the movie. So I really think that they do such a good job of weaving all of these stories in. There's no moment that's not thought of throughout this. There's no wasted space, and it feels like a movie. And I think you said timeless.
It feels like a movie.
Yeah, well, because everything is real, everything is practical, and you don't necessarily get that for some of these. Every character is really thought out, and it just, I don't know, it really feels like a different time of movie making. And it was just for me really enjoyable to see that all of that as an adult and experience it with again, the childlike wonder that I had as a kid, but like also it exceeding my expectations as an adult. So it was a fun time for me.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the cast, I think, 'cause it's got a great cast
Mhm.
for this moment in time, especially. And I think we got to start off. David, you already kind of told us a little bit about Madonna being such a controversial pick at the time in 1992.
Mhm.
Did you do any research to talk about that a little bit? Because I didn't, but it's not a surprise to me to hear that she was controversial. But in hindsight, it is silly because she fits in so well. Um,
Yeah, and it's not like she's like main character or anything
sure.
like that. She's in a supporting role, you know. So, I think this was like one of her first films that she did as an actress. She had done some kind of film style short films, music video style stuff, but this is one of her first big starring roles. At least after Dick Tracy, she was in Dick Tracy in 1990, and that was kind of her first wide release movie roles, I think. She was so controversial at the time. There's a joke on Modern Family that I still love. There's an episode where Cam and Julie Bowen's character, they're building a baseball field for their kids' team. And Claire's like moping or something like that. Cam goes, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "Nothing." And he goes, "What did we learn from A League of Their Own?" She goes, "There's no crying in baseball," because she's crying. He just, "No, Donna's a terrible actress, and so are you." It's Phil.
Aw.
It was such a thing that the original actress who was going to play Dottie, who was played by Gina Davis, was actually cast. It was going to be Deborah Winger from, in terms of endearment, things like that. She was in the movie. She had done training for 4 weeks, and she dropped out because Madonna was cast. She said, "I'm not going to be in this movie. It's an Elvis movie now," is how she termed it. And so I don't know. Madonna has always been kind of a polarizing figure, maybe longer ago than she is today. But yeah,
She
that's
had a
just kind of
different
crazy
sort
to
of
me.
relevancy in 1992 than
Yes.
today.
And so that is really funny to me, really interesting to me. But I thought, going back and watching it 30 something years later, she's totally fine. It's
Right, yeah.
it's totally fine. She plays a very specific character that I think she actually does a good job with. And you pair her for most of the movie with Rosie O'Donnell, they have good chemistry.
Yeah, please don't come at me, anyone on the internet, if this is wrong at all, but it feels to me like the more recent day version of Lady Gaga going into a film with A Star is Born and then
Mm-hmm.
that terrible gangster movie. You know, because she's like a somewhat controversial figure, or at least was about a decade ago or so. She's a little more mainstream now.
I think where people were slightly more willing to accept Lady Gaga than they were Madonna, but maybe that's because Madonna, broke that glass ceiling of sorts.
Certainly she did.
Which was
Madonna
originally
walked,
broken
so
by
Lady
Elvis.
Gaga could run. What do you think about Madonna in the movie, Garrett?
Yeah, I think that she does a great job with that character. She really plays it well, and for me, it is more about she doesn't necessarily have a full chance to like shine. She's got really funny moments for me, but it also just shows that all of these women come from different backgrounds, and they can all get along and relate when it comes to being able to play the game, and that is again just something that is true. And so I really like the way that they play with Rosie O'Donnell, because they are such different. Like she is a player, she is a player first, and that is her mindset. And you can see the difference in how they think. But again, the commonality is they both are so competitive that they want to be good. And you see that throughout the entire dynamic of Gina Davis and Lori Petty, as they have their both sibling dynamic, but also competitive dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
As you see these characters unwind, you see that Dottie's really good. She's obviously the star and the standout player, but that's not what she wants. She wants a family, and she wants her kids, and she wants her husband back from the war. And everybody's just so blown away that she just doesn't want that, even though she's so talented. And then you have her sister, who is living in her shadow and really trying to stand out and make a name for herself. And again, everything just clashes.
She wants.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, in contrast, she really wants it.
Yeah.
And for Dottie, it's like, my life is just on hold right now. And so this is just something to do until I can pick my life back up. But her sister wants it so bad. And it infuriates her that seemingly with little effort, her older sister is just so much better and more popular. They come up with cool nicknames for her, like the Queen of Diamonds. That's a cool nickname. for a
Cool
baseball
nickname.
player. Like, I gotta say, interesting. Has there ever been a baseball player whose nickname was the King of Diamonds? I can't think of one.
I can't think of any.
But
No.
there should be. The whole Diamonds, suit should have already been claimed by now.
Yeah.
For nicknames. But yeah, I thought that Gina Davis is great in this. Initially, Penny Marshall wanted Demi Moore. She couldn't get her. Gina Davis was the third option coming in. But man, this is like she's iconic in this role. Like she looks
Iconic, yeah.
perfect for it, and she's great. Lori Petty as Kit Keller, also great. So you're kind of core members there of the team, and want to shout out Megan Cavanaugh as Marla Hooch, who I think is actually a great
Amazing.
character in this movie too.
Marla Hooch is one of the greatest characters in this movie.
Super disappointed when she leaves.
Yes.
So disappointed when she leaves the team. But you have all of those character types that you want from a movie like this. You have the sister rivals, you have the bad girl from the streets, the wisecracker. You have the sort of homely one who has to kind of but has like a heart of gold in there, or something like that. It hits so many things you expect, but then kind of has a slightly better, deeper level on it because at the end of the day, these are stepping into what's traditionally seen as a man's role and how society reacts to that.
And one of the best parts of this is I think that Strathairn, as Ira Lowenstein, really is that person who points out all of those kinds of moments of, he has a line where he talks about, we say these women have to do this for the duty of their country. And then as soon as the men come back, you expect them to go back into the kitchen. And then, you have that whole dynamic and you see this moment where these women get this freedom that they've never had before. And you see how much it means to them. And that is a through point throughout the story. Again, this is a memory. And I think that also helps with the timeless factor, is that we start in a modern day and then we go back into a time that is specific to this person. And then we come back out of it and you see how this moment in time affects all of these women in real life. And they get the recognition so much later in life. And people have passed. And you see their family members all finally seeing that. And that moment for me it was just gush because it was just like, reminded me of a time gone by when all of these women that I grew up with, it was softball. And then, now they live their life and you lose connections. But were you to come back for any kind of moment, it would be a team again. And I don't know, it was amazing.
The only thing comparable that I can think of in recent history from my life isn't even like a reunion, like a high school reunion. This might be a little sad to bring up, but when we had that memorial service for our teacher and our radio manager, Kathy Coomer, and all of the people who had previously kind of worked in or worked around RSU radio here in Claremore, Oklahoma, when we all got together, that felt like the same kind of feeling of man, we were all joined by one central thing, and that was an interest to do broadcast, do radio, do something. So I definitely related to the feeling that they had as older women coming back. But this is just such a forgotten time period. The All-American Girls Professional Baseball League was a real thing. And I was even looking up Roger Ebert's review, and he was like, I was 12 when this was happening, and I had no idea. It was a real thing that was going on in my life. And it's such when you first hear it, most people I think go, oh, a fictitious baseball league in the 1940s. How fun. No, it was a real thing. And they wore these uniforms and they wore the Rockford Peaches and the Racine Bells, it was a real thing.
Yeah. I want to talk about some of the movie elements because Penny Marshall directed the hell out of this movie. I mean, she did an amazing job. And one of the things that stands out for me was the use of a montage because this movie's 2 hours. And they have 3 different montage scenes to help kind of tell the story. And I think they do a really good job with them all. And for me, the standout moment is always whenever they lift up the skirt after she slid and she's got that big giant bruise on her leg.
Yeah.
That was totally real because those skirts are ridiculous to slide in. I mean, they truthfully, again, growing up, the girls would wear athletic shorts, but they also had sliders that they would put over their calves because it would tear up their legs to slide that way. And so having them in that, and I love the dirt in the skirt line, it's truly watching that. It's quite fun. But again, these women are strong. They get down and dirty, literally. Guys are wearing pants out there when they play baseball.
Weak men.
Couldn't imagine wearing
pants.
shorts. Wearing shorts to play baseball would be really weird.
What did you guys think of like the montages that they had throughout this movie?
Like the one where they were the sort of the one where like in the midst of it they had to learn how to become ladies and they had to get their hair done and get their special stuff, and I would tell you like this, the training, and I felt so bad for poor Marla Hooch because she gets it. Because you have like a traditional montage like that, but you also have like the war film reels that they were making about it, you know?
Yeah.
So you have the Marla Hooch line where they're making recommendations for the girls and they're saying like, cut the hair, shave the eyebrows. And they think about it and they go, more night games. And I was like, that's so mean. But I can't help it. I laughed. And
but they would have done that in the 40s too. They were looking for ladies and she didn't meet their terms. And so they would keep
in the war reel style one where they were like, and Marla Hooch, and she's like way off in the background. Oh, what a hitter.
Yeah.
So I felt bad, but they were able to condense a lot of storytelling that probably would have dragged the film out a little bit more with those montages and between that and like the World Series montage at the end too.
Yeah, I really like those newsreel montages. I thought that was a fun way to tie a story together. And it also just brought, again, that realism back, that reminder to me that this is based on true events, this is a real league that happened and all this. And just tying that into this newsreel footage kind of kept that little reminder in and getting that little timeless feel. So I like those a lot.
The voice in those newsreels was, I can't remember the actor's name now, but the guy who does the voice of Ned Flanders on The Simpsons.
Fun fact.
Nice.
It was that guy doing the film reel voice.
We also haven't talked about Tom Hanks.
No, let's talk about
again.
Tom
We
Hanks
gotta
and in a minute,
give Jimmy Dugan his credit because this movie, he was so good. It made me mad at his last several movies for just being nice guy Tom Hanks and not acting.
Yeah.
He acted in this movie. I mean, he was standout. He's Scene Stealer. I mean, that piss scene, iconic.
He pisses
for
forever.
a long piss. I mean, and one of the most iconic lines in cinema, there's no crying.
Right.
There's no crying in baseball.
Well, peak Tom Hanks, which is very close to this era, really, you could probably call the entire 1990s peak Tom Hanks. He can have a temper tantrum like no other. And he has several in here. But yeah, that's another great one where that's the iconic line, but he says so many ridiculous things in that moment. Tells the guy he looks like a penis with a hat. And then it made me think of he just starts yelling and it's kind of incomprehensible. I think the subtitles even said unintelligible yelling. And I was like, he sounds like Woody here. And it makes me,
how are you gonna throw me out? What I love is there's a little hit at the very end as he's like storming off where he goes, I can't believe you've never been told that before, or something like that. And it cracked me up again. He's like, how are you gonna throw when you've got a strike zone this wide and this high? Like it's that classic Hanks. I really want to see Woody dubbed with League of Their Own lines.
Oh, that'd be great.
Like there's sometimes he hits the Woody pitch in this.
He does. I could hear Woody coming out, and it's very close to the time period. So
Yeah, my dad was a coach, and he got thrown out one time, and it always reminds me of that because my dad was very calm, not like Tom Hanks in this movie, but he told the umpire that he was a legend in his own mind, and then the umpire threw him out so fast.
That's so funny. I think where Jimmy really
ejections are the best.
Where I was like, all right, Jimmy, we've gone through a good chunk of the movie, but now I'm really on your side. Was when he signed that kid's baseball, avoid the clap. That's good advice. Some, Jimmy Dugan shit.
Yeah,
he's such a cantankerous character, but at the same time, you really want that moment where he stands up and he goes, wait, what? I was on his side because he was like, what are you doing? You're going to have Marla squeeze bunt? No, she's our best hitter. Swing away. He's like, what's the sign for swing away? Yeah. He finally got fed up with it. And he started getting involved. And then he starts to fall for the team. It's like, heartwarming moment. Yeah. So, Tom Hanks, iconic in this. There's a moment in the movie where if I had anything resembling a nitpick, and this is a nitpick, like this is not really lower the movie's status for me. But technically, from what we are presented, it's Dottie's memory. But when she leaves the team, the movie stays with Tom Hanks and the team. And so I was kind of like, how does she know any of this happened?
I didn't think about that, but
she wasn't there.
So what's the word? Continuity questions.
And so there was a part of me that was like, I kind of want to see her driving back and stop and think to her and like go, no. But, you can like interlay the World Series montage within that. But I think the reveal of her standing up and going back is probably just, they thought that was too cool a moment. So they just went with that. I don't know. That's me speculating.
First of all, how did you guys feel about Bill Pullman being in there as her husband? Because I always forget that he's in there and it was wonderful.
I always love seeing Bill Pullman. He's great.
Ooh, Bill Pullman. How about that? I think his name was in the opening credits too, maybe. And then I forgot that I hadn't seen him for a while. So I forgot his name was in the credits. So yeah, he was a fun little, and how nice that he came back.
He feels like one of those actors, like when you announce like, okay, it's a 40s era baseball movie. It's like, oh, Bill Pullman be good for that. You know, like it just fits. Can we talk about one of my favorite characters though?
Yeah.
I want to talk about John Lovitz.
You read my notes already, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
John Lovitz is one step above Tom Arnold from True Lies in this movie.
And
John Lovitz
step, though,
is basically
an important step, as she would say.
He's Tom Arnold with a catchy voice effect.
He does, because I love everything John Lovitz says in this movie.
He annoys me. He's so annoying.
Did you tell the cows you'd write?
Yeah. He goes, listen here, cowgirls. And stuff like that. My favorite line in the entire movie, well, I have two things. One, the face he makes when he sees Marla Hooch is so mean, but so funny when he goes, he like flinches when he sees Marla Hooch. And it's so mean, but it still made me laugh because he goes, and then he squints at her. My favorite line is when they're trying to catch the train. He goes, well, I'll say this for them. They can run. And then he leans over this woman to look out the window and she goes, sir, your knee. And he goes, like it?
Yeah. I really enjoy John Lovitz in this. I think he's hilarious. He delivered so much comedic moments for me in those because he is such a jerk, and it's so wonderfully done.
I had joked with Nikki. I said, at some point, I hope he goes jealous. And at one point, he goes, she says, they say, where are we going? He goes, we got to go find more players in Kansas City or something like that. And he goes, don't be jealous. And I was like, oh, he almost said it. He almost just went jealous. Yeah. So anyway, I know, Josh, I'm sorry, but it's his greatest performance that he ever gave.
Well, that may be.
What did you guys feel about, again, let's talk about the climax of the movie as we wrap up here. How did you guys feel about, as everything came to a close, that Game 7? Kit had been traded. Dottie is back on Rockford, and they are going head to head. It's the final countdown, if you will. I mean, you've got all of these things. Game 7, team versus team. We're all rooting for Rockford, I assume, because that's who we've been with this whole time. And then you've got Kit over there at that moment. And then, man, she gives it up. Rockford takes the lead, and then she comes in, and they collide after she ran through the stop sign, which is a baseball player, is a big no-no. She dropped that ball, and Racine won, and Kit had her moment. Rockford lost, and we're all feeling sad, but then you see Gina Davis over there looking so proud like a sister. And then later in that moment, her sister is surprised that she loves her. Mm-hmm. Did you guys get that moment? She was like, I love you. And she was like, really?
Really? You do?
Yeah.
That whole moment was like an explosion of tension.
Between that and then the flash forward again to the end where you see all the ladies get to go in and get to sort of see their history being put in the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's a really touching, I feel like it's a touching ending, and it kind of makes you really feel a certain level of pride for all of those involved. Yeah. I always wondered, though, as a kid, I thought, did she drop it on purpose? But that's apparently not even a plot point. I made that up in my head.
Who knows? You never know. Yeah, it's a very exciting ending of a game, even though it is a bummer of an ending if you're a fan of the team. Because of what you explained, Garrett, with seeing Gina Davis's character be so proud, see Dottie be proud, and all of that, and the love they share. Isn't the real winner of the World Series the friends we made along the way? Isn't it that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you feel that. They don't need to win it to know that they won the ultimate game.
They won. They got fans. They lasted for 10 years.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty successful.
That meant something to people.
Yeah. Go look it up. Go look at your history. Again, because you look at, there's one other scene that I wanted to call out. There's no black women.
Yeah.
People really represented in this movie. There's one scene where a black woman throws the baseball to and past Dottie and to Ellen. And that is an important moment because Black people were excluded from this. Black women were excluded from this because of racism.
Segregation.
Segregation, racism is really what it boils down to at the end. But in the show that was on Amazon Prime that spawned from this, they do focus on Black characters and being included, and so that is incorporated. So I think it's again, that show got canceled, but I think it's worth watching and
really
looking at what they do because they did a good job with it.
A really interesting story behind the woman who is in that scene is that she had heard from an open casting call that they were making the movie A League of Their Own, so she went down to audition, and they realized, Penny Marshall realized, like, well, there weren't any Black players in the league, so like already kind of can't be in it. But she really thought about like, hey, you know what, there's an opportunity here. And they wrote in this scene that shows that even in the moment in the 1940s where some progress was being made for women, there was still some progress to be made. I think that was a really smart way to take advantage of a situation.
All right, let's move into our final thoughts and ratings. You picked the movie, so why don't you lead with your final review?
Yeah, this was a fun revisit for me for the first time since I was a kid to a movie that I would say influenced a lot of my childhood. It was wonderful to watch. I mean, Penny Marshall did such an amazing job with everything, and every person when they were on screen was so captivating. There wasn't a moment that I wasn't just drawn to it. They developed stories, they developed characters, they really told the action and got you invested in the game itself that you were watching. And truly every single aspect was thought out. And I have really no notes. It's a 5-star movie for me.
5-star.
Excellent. Excellent.
I'm going to say that it is a fantastic movie. I really like it. When Tom Hanks hits Stillwell in the face with a glove, laugh out loud.
Gotta love the kid getting in the face.
It's great. It hits everything you kind of want. I am only going to give it 4.5 out of 5, but I still think this is a great movie anytime.
Yeah. For sure. As the person least connected to it, I think, I really enjoyed it. It's a great movie that's approachable, whether you're a sports fan or not, a baseball fan or not, whether you're a history buff or not. You don't really need to know any of this stuff to come in and just watch this story and be moved by it in some way, shape, or form. A lot of great performances, great story. My lack of connection is really probably my thing from keeping it from being a perfect 5-star movie. So I'm gonna go with 4 stars. 4 stars for me. All right.
We rated this very highly.
We did, all in the 4 to 5 range. So that's always exciting. All right, quickly, we will do our Letterboxd game. I will check out some of the top reviews here of the movie on Letterboxd. First, we've got 4 stars from Katie, who says, whoever decided that Rosie O'Donnell and Madonna should team up was a genius. Totally agree. We discussed that a little bit. They were great together. 4 stars. This movie proves that women make everything more watchable, including baseball. That's a fun little jab. And
at baseball.
Exactly.
Softball's better.
Softball is very fun.
3 stars. I love the part when they have their own league.
That's so dumb.
4 stars. Madonna teaching the illiterate woman to read erotica is the same thing as being an adjunct English professor.
Oh, man. No one said it, but that moment where the bus driver just casually bends down, picks up a wad of dirt, and throws it in that woman's face is also very funny to me.
Yeah. Wow, that was unnecessary for me. I was so shockingly like, that was a little too far.
It was the nonchalantness of how he did it that really sold it.
So who's up first in this?
Josh, you are... Actually, Garrett, you're in last place, so
yeah,
you're up first.
I take into account that I am going to rate this movie very high. You all also rated it very high. I think it will be liked, but I certainly don't think it's going to skew towards the 5-star. I think we're going to be in the more realistic range.
Interesting.
I think I'm going to give it like a 4.0. It'll be right around there.
Okay.
4.0. Yeah, that's a tough one to deal with because I kind of feel like I got to go on the lower end because I agree with the assessment. I don't think it'll be toward the 5. So I'm going to go with the 3.7.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about you.
Well, I'm going to position us for a tiebreaker situation no matter what, I think.
Okay.
I'll say it's gotten just enough to lower it to 3.0.
Okay.
I think it's going to be very high.
We got a 4.0, a 3.7, and a 3.9. Let's see if we have a direct hit this week. We do not. We do not have a direct hit this week, and it looks like we're going to need 3. You picked 4.0.
I said 3.9.
You said 3.9. I said 3.7. Yep, we're going to need a tiebreaker because it's 3.8. Between me and David.
Here we go. 3.8. I should have went with that.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. What's our tiebreaker going to be for this? What about the Rotten Tomatoes score for the television show?
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
I'm just throwing stuff out there.
We can do that.
To see if that's a thing that I can look up.
If not that, we can just go with Rotten Tomatoes for the movie itself.
Or that, yeah, I guess that's true. Rotten Tomatoes for the movie itself would be fine.
Back up Rotten Tomatoes. Is it certified hot?
I don't think it gets to have that.
Yeah, because you can't buy tickets for it.
Fandango wasn't around.
I did notice they've added that to more movies, though.
Okay, we can do the Rotten Tomatoes, but I am going to do the audience score for it, not the critics score.
Okay. Audience score of The League of Their Own. The movie, right? Okay. That is so... What a scary thing to just introduce us to. What do I think they're going to pick? Okay, 87%.
Oh, dang. That's
87
exactly
for
where
Josh
I was
on the fan votes.
I
Okay.
got it out first.
That's exactly where I was going to go. Okay, I will say 85%.
85 for David.
Hopefully it's not 86.
It is 84, which means David walks away.
Mother effer.
with it.
You know, we did really well on that, I'd say, actually.
I would say
It
that's
was
a good
actually
job.
quite a surprise.
Well done.
Sweet. Well, there's one more point for David there on the
One more
letterbox
for me.
game. Okay, that's going to be it for us today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel or in your favorite podcasting app to keep up with new episodes and reviews, however you prefer to watch the show. You can also follow us on social media with Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Facebook at So Many Sequels Pod, or just search So Many Sequels in those apps. Let us know what you think of the show there. And then finally, head over to SoManySequels.com for all those links and a catalog of all of our past podcast episodes. We will see you all very soon. Bye.